night. The problem we faced, and the reason we have an arrest now, is we didn't see with our own eyes and could not identify who was driving. So our detectives, the detective on my right and left, began a really complex and long-term investigation that spans 3 months. And using snippets of videos that they found along the way, and really just a phenomenal detective work. I can't stress that enough. You know, I'm doing the talking, they deserve all the credit. I didn't lift a finger on this case, they did all the work. They solved the case and determined who was driving. And we know that Enrique Hernandez was driving. As a matter of fact, he admitted to that. And he's been charged with 3 counts of vehicular manslaughter. It is very possible the state attorney will upcharge and turn those into felony murder cases. And basically that's what it is. And I'll close with what I said once already. This was good police work. This was excellent detective work. The men on my right and left did not rest. It did not matter to them that the 3 people who died were criminals. It didn't matter to them that they came up here to steal from us. It did not matter to them that they no longer have a voice to ask somebody to bring justice. They worked their case, they solved the case, and to the extent that we ever can, my industry is hard, but to the extent that we ever can, we feel that there's a measure of justice now for the dead individuals. And with that, I'll stop and see if I can answer a question or two.
Sheriff, again, so the only charges right now are 3 counts of vehicular manslaughter?
And 3 counts of attempted burglary.
3 counts of attempted burglary, and that's for them getting off at 7:13 and...
Yes.
Were the, those 2 individuals who escaped or were taken into custody shortly after the crash and later released, were they also arrested later on some sort of credit card or identity theft?
Yes, actually Enrique, our suspect in this case, was charged with some type of fraud. So there's some other charges, but obviously the substantive charges, and we can look at the affidavit, Will, but the substantive charges, the vehicular homicide.
Had Enrique been in custody or incarcerated at the jail since those fraud arrests? Or?
Yeah, he was actually the suspect on this. The question is, was he incarcerated anywhere else? Enrique was in jail in Palm Beach County on unrelated charges, gun charges and a myriad of other charges. Unfortunately for Enrique Hernandez, it appears that he is a career criminal.
Sheriff, again, just to clarify, so 3 counts of vehicular homicide, or which is a manslaughter, or is it?
Vehicular homicide.
Okay, so 3 counts of a vehicular homicide, and those are not murder charges, that's a manslaughter charge, is that?
Well, it's its own charge. It's
okay.
Vehicular homicide. It's its own statute. It has its own sanctions. I'm hoping that the state attorney brings this to a grand jury and upcharges to felony murder, which is basically unintended. It's an unintended consequence. You committed a felony. You didn't expect someone to die, but that's your bad. Someone did die, and I think felony murder would be very appropriate charges.
Sheriff, could you explain, or even the detectives, the details of how they tracked him down?
Yeah, the details on how they tracked it down, it's pretty complex, but here's the basic nuggets that got them on that. We knew somebody was driving. I mean, of course somebody was driving. Could have been one of the dead guys. Could have been one of the 2 living guys. One of the first big breaks came is that we had clear video of Enrique wearing white socks, getting out of the driver's seat, getting back in. So you say, well, what's the big deal about white socks? Big deal is everybody else had black socks. The other thing is Enrique's height. So in the video, we could tell that the shortest of the bunch was the driver. And they had some other investigative techniques that they used, but it was the white socks that put them onto it. It was the video of him getting out of the car, clearly him getting out of the car, getting back in the car, And then he admits that he was the driver.
When you say getting out of the car, getting back in, are you talking about like after it crashed into the river, like swimming?
Right,
back?
Will's question is getting out, getting back. It was at the burglary scene in Palm City. The video there is very clear.
And he got back into the driver's
Yeah, he
seat.
got back into the driver's seat.
Got it. Got it. The vehicular homicide counts, though, they are felony charges, though, right?
Vehicular homicide is,
That's a-
those are 3 felonies. Yeah, they're serious charges.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
He's not lightly charged. They're serious charges, but
Wasn't there a 16-year-old as well that survived?
there was a juvenile that survived. He is cooperating with the state, and he faces some charges down the road. We're working on that. Right now, he's a cooperating witness, so his value to the case is really that.
Did he indicate that Enrique Hernandez, I guess, was the driver as well, or?
He's cooperating with us.
Yeah, our witness is cooperating. Apparently, our detective doesn't want to get too much into those statements.
But as you said, Hernandez did admit to being behind the wheel.
Yes, Enrique Hernandez admitted that he was driving that car.
Did he,
18 or 19? How old is he?
He's 18.
18. Okay.
did he indicate why he was driving so?
Yeah, good
fast,
question.
right?
Will's question is, did he indicate why he was driving that fast? This is a phenomenon that we see. They will come at us from down south. They will come up the interstate at 100+ miles an hour looking for any cops following them because they know unmarked can be following them. They're very leery of our task force. If there's nobody following them, they get off and they do their burglary. And then they're 18-year-olds. They're adults, but they don't have good logic or good reason. So why you would do 100+ miles an hour through traffic lights, it almost feels like a death wish.
The 3 individuals who died, were they all teenagers?
They were. Were they all teenagers?
Yes, sir.
Yes. We have affidavits, and we can give you all those names.
Because again, you guys were never in pursuit as a tradition, right? I mean, because
Right.
I know that's sort of whether
Yeah.
the felony murder charges will come into play is whether there was a fleeing and eluding charge or anything to that extent, which would probably.
Well, those are 2 good questions. The question is, would the fleeing and eluding trigger the felony murder, and were we ever in pursuit? We were not in pursuit. We turn on our blue and red lights, and we have clear and unequivocal video showing that we weren't in pursuit. So, you know, look, every sheriff, every state supervisor, every city police chief, we're always very alert to the fact that if we started chasing someone dies, it's going to be a question, was it worth it? So I'm not apologizing for anything we ever do as far as chases. We do our best. We don't like people to come into our small town and leave. But in this case, it was a property crime. Didn't fall within our pursuit guidelines for a high-speed chase, and our deputy used excellent judgment. And when he saw that speed, he backed off, and we have clear video of the fact that they were never being pushed by a police car. They made the decision to keep going at 100-some miles an hour, notwithstanding the fact that they weren't being chased. The bad is on them.
And Mr. Hernandez was arrested this afternoon?
We effected the search warrant, the arrest warrant
This afternoon.
yes. You all are very gracious. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you for being here.